truth. Get candid with it.
The star is born, Eli.
Candid truth, demon in the White House.
A new world order.
Bible prophecy.
Is not an alien force already among us?
We're gonna talk about the truth. We're gonna get candid with it. Candid truth.
What is up, everybody? Thank you for joining us at Candid Truth. We're going to talk about the truth, and we're going to get candid with it. Tonight's show might be the most controversial show we've ever done. And I mean that in all honesty. I mean, we've talked about some crazy topics on here. If you haven't seen, go back and check out some of our topics. But we want to get candid with it. We want to keep it candid. We want to be uncensored, and we're searching for the truth. And we're on this journey, on this road with you. And I'm just going to preface this by saying that this video is for educational or entertainment purposes only. Okay? I'm going to say that because we don't want to be removed due to harmful content or anything like that. So this video is for entertainment purposes only. And I want to show you guys some crazy stuff. We've been going down the rabbit hole and finding things that are just shocking, mind-blowing, and this could be the most controversial video we ever do. And we might lose subscribers, we might lose donors. I hope that doesn't happen. I hope you guys stick with me from the beginning to the end, because I have a feeling this is going to be a 2-hour show. Sorry, we haven't done a show in like 8 days today. That was not by choice. There's been a lot going on. This study took a lot of research, but just life, you know, mowing yards, chores, all that kind of stuff. Anyway, let's get into this. We're going to be talking about nuclear weapons, radiation in general, radium, things like this. And when you see this sign, it is a fearful sign. When you see it, you're like, whoa, I want to stay far away from that. We are resumed. Wow. All right. Praise the Lord. I can't believe that just happened. All right. So, yeah, when I was a kid, I was told by adults that the American president had a red button that if he so ever chose, he could press that button and blow up the earth. The whole world would blow up with nukes. And people used to believe that. I actually looked this up just to kind of fact check myself. I was like, did people really believe that? And Google said, yes. It has been widely believed that the American president has a literal button that can destroy the world. However, this is a popular myth. There is no physical red button that indicates nuclear Armageddon. The nuclear football, though, this is the truth about it. Rather than a button, the president is constantly accompanied by a military aide carrying a leather briefcase known as the nuclear football, officially called the Presidential Emergency Satchel. This briefcase contains secure communication tools to connect with the Pentagon and military commanders, a book detailing pre-planned nuclear strike options, and authenticator codes used to verify the president's identity. So that's the truth of the matter. The truth of the matter, did this just restart or did we start? I hope we got the beginning, because it's saying 1 minute and 35 seconds. I feel like I need to start over or something. Maybe I'm going to, just to be on the safe side. Sorry guys, this is going to be a wacky show here. What's up, everybody? Thank you for joining us at Candid Truth. We're going to talk about the truth, and we're going to get candid with it. Tonight, we're going to get so candid, so uncensored, controversial that we might lose subscribers, we might lose donors, but hey, the truth is the truth. And we are on that search for truth, just like everyone else, and we want to show you what we guys have, show you guys what we have found. And this is for entertainment purposes only. Just got to get that out of the way. let's get into this. Like I said, it's going to be a very controversial show. Please stick with me till the very end. I hope you guys stay with me. So we're going to be talking about radiation, nuclear warheads, all these things. When you see this symbol, you already think like danger. Like, I don't want to get anywhere near that thing because things emit out of there and they go through walls and they mutate my cells and I'm going to become a mutant or get cancer or something. That's the danger symbol that we think of when we see this symbol right here. And I remember as a kid being told by adults that the American president has a little red button that if he ever so chooses, he could press that button and blow up the world with nuclear bombs. Like, he had the power to push a button and the earth goes bye-bye, just blows up. And I was trying to like fact check myself, like, is this real? Did everybody hear this, or was it just me as a kid in the 90s? But no, it's a real thing. It says, yes, it has been widely believed that the American president has a literal button that can destroy the world. However, this is a popular myth. There's no physical red button that indicates nuclear Armageddon, initiates nuclear Armageddon. The nuclear football is what it's called. Rather than a button, the president is constantly accompanied by a military aide carrying a leather briefcase known as the nuclear football, officially called the Presidential Emergency Satchel. This briefcase contains secure communication tools to connect the Pentagon and the military commanders, a book detailing pre-planned nuclear strike options. Okay, a book detailing pre-planned nuclear strike options, authenticator codes used to verify the president's identity. So that's the truth about this little button thing. So the president really does supposedly have the option to open up this briefcase, this leather satchel, and there's authentication codes, and he's going to be connected with the Pentagon and military commanders, and there's like this book detailing how he can initiate nuclear war, I guess. That's in the power of the president's hands. This concept has been around for a while, and there was even a movie called Dreamscape in the 80s, and I was asking, wasn't there a scene about this in the movie? And Google was saying that, yeah, the U.S. president is haunted by terrifying, reoccurring nightmares of a nuclear holocaust, paralyzed by the psychological pressure of knowing he holds the actual power to destroy the world. His mental state becomes a major political liability. So in the movie, he keeps having these reoccurring nightmares that his wife's running towards the camera and a nuclear blast goes off, and she's calling his name and asking why he pushed the button and all this stuff, and he keeps waking up in cold sweats and like, whoo, no, I didn't want to press the button and all this stuff. So this is like I said, this is a well-known pop cultural idea or whatever, but there's some truth to it. We're going to find out how true this stuff really is. The first nuclear bomb was successfully detonated on July 16th, 1945 during the Trinity test. Interesting name there. The Trinity test at the Alamogordo bombing range in New Mexico. Developed during World War II by the U.S.-led Manhattan Project, this first device, codenamed Gadget, was a plutonium implosion weapon. Following this successful test, the United States built 2 additional bombs used in warfare, both dropped on Japan. Little Boy, an enriched uranium gun-type bomb dropped on Hiroshima on August 6, 1945, and Fat Man, a plutonium implosion weapon dropped on Nagasaki on August 9th, 1945. So there were these like propaganda advertisements, like educational films that kids had to watch back in the 50s, I guess, or maybe earlier than that, about what to do. Like, do you know what to do when you see the flash? Check this out.
He did what we all must learn to do. Duck and cover.
Be sure and remember what Bert the Turtle just did, friends, because every one of us must remember to do the same thing. Duck and cover. First, you have to know what happens when an atomic bomb explodes. You will know when it comes. We hope it never comes, but we must get ready. It looks something like this. There is a bright flash, brighter than the sun, brighter than anything you've ever seen. If you were not ready and did not know what to do, it could hurt you in different ways. It could knock you down hard or throw you against a tree or a wall. It is such a big explosion, it can smash in buildings and knock signboards over and break windows all over town. But if you duck and cover like Bert, you will be much safer. First, you duck, and then you cover. And very tightly, you cover the back of your neck and your face.
So my dad told me that when they were in the military, they used to kind of joke about these films, and they would say, when you see the flash, you duck and cover and kiss your butt goodbye, because there's no way that ducking and covering is going to save you from an atomic bomb, a nuclear blast. But this was a type of films that they were making kids watch. They were trying to educate them about how to protect themselves if there was some kind of nuclear war going on. But imagine the fear put into kids. I mean, when you watch, this was a 9-minute video. I trimmed it way down, but it was talking about like it could happen anytime. You could be at a picnic with your family and the flash will happen. What do? Duck and cover. You could be on your bike, right? And you could have a holiday, and it's just telling you like at any time this might happen. Like be ready. There might be some that are kind of pre-warned where we have these sirens that and then you can go find a local shelter. But there might be some that are no warning. And so whatever you do, just always be ready to see that flash and to duck and cover. You would be in constant fear. That is what Satan loves. Satan loves to keep people in constant fear. That's the opposite of peace. Christ is the King of peace, the Prince of peace. He wants to give you peace, and Satan wants to keep you in perpetual fear. This article right here says the shockwave from the nuclear blast. So this is going to show you just how impactful this blast is. The shockwave from a nuclear blast can be felt, heard, or cause physical damage anywhere from a few miles to over 100 miles. Okay, so you're going to hear it, feel it, and have physical damage from anywhere from a few miles to over 100 miles away, depending on the explosive yield, weather conditions, and atmospheric refraction. Interesting. I didn't know that had an effect on nuclear blasts, but okay. 0 to 5 miles is total destruction. So this is like how much impact it has the further it gets away. 0 to 5 miles, total destruction and severe damage. Near the detonation site, the shockwave produces devastating overpressures, supersonic winds, and flattening buildings, causing immediate fatalities and severe injuries. So remember that. 0 to 5 miles, total destruction. That's the impact, right? The impact site. Ground zero is like, and then everything else gets less and less damage as it goes out. But remember that. Impact site, total damage. 5 to 12 miles, moderate damage and structural risks. 10 to 15 miles, light damage. 100 plus miles, perceivable vibration and sound. So 100 miles away, you can still feel the vibration and sound. Remember that too. 100 plus miles, you're still perceiving the vibration and sound. And the impact site, total destruction. So I was looking at this PolitiFact. They're talking about how some people question nuclear bombs. Are they real? And they're trying to basically debunk that idea. But I was getting some information from them. And it says, for this test, meaning the atomic bomb test, government officials arranged 48 cameras, 2,750 feet to 10,500 feet from ground zero. All right, are you hearing something right now? There's 48 cameras that are anywhere from less than 3,000 feet away to a little more than 10,000 feet away, according to 1955 report on the technical photography of the nuclear test from the Defense Department. All right, so pay attention to that. These cameras are less than 3,000 feet away, anywhere to a little more than 10,000 feet away. What did this say? It can be felt 0 to 5 miles, total destruction. 0 to 5 miles, total destruction. I'm curious, how many feet is in a mile? Or let's see, how far is 10,500 feet? That's the furthest that they show on this article. 10,500 feet. How far is that? 10,500 feet is not even 2 miles, all right? So the furthest away that any of these cameras were was less than 2 miles away. And right here we see that 0 to 5 miles is total destruction, severe damage. All right, I hope you're already connecting some dots here, right? These cameras would be annihilated. They're not even 2 miles away. Some of them are not even a mile away, as we saw right here. And then it says the report said cameras were mounted to 10 or 18-foot towers. So these cameras are only 10 feet tall, which is the height of a basketball goal, or 18 foot, which is, 2 stories tall. Look at this. Look at where it's at. These are the cameras. They're encased in these boxes. It says to keep dust clouds raised by the bomb's blast from obscuring the camera's footage. That's not very high. We're talking about to be above the dust from this thing, only 10 to 18 feet. The cameras were also placed inside metal boxes to protect the equipment to protect the equipment and film from nuclear radiation. Now, a camera can't see through metal, so there has to be at least a glass lens in the box, right? So even though they say the cameras are in metal boxes, they still got to have a glass lens to be able to see outside the box, and therefore they're going to be exposed to nuclear radiation. And you can see how tall this thing is. It doesn't even look 18 feet. Maybe. Okay, maybe it's 20 feet tall. Let's just say it's 20 feet tall, okay? 20 feet tall, less than 2 miles away, in a metal box with a glass lens. Do you think it's going to be affected by nuclear radiation? Absolutely. No questions asked. Now, this is what happened. Operation Q, 1955. Look at these blasts that are just destroying buildings, destroying houses, destroying power lines, making them rock. I mean, this is intense. Look at this. Boom. Like the thing just got annihilated. Now, I want you to think critically while you're watching these scenes, especially this one. This was a nuclear blast. I don't know how powerful zoom lenses were on cameras in 1955, but this looks awfully close to the site. How come these buildings were completely annihilated? These cameras weren't even 2 miles away, and not a shake or a jar. Look at this. The camera remains solid. That is a solid tripod shot. Not even a slight vibration. I want you to consider the idea that these could be miniature models. This could be completely fake propaganda. You could look at it 2 ways. Maybe we wanted the enemy, the Russians or something, to think that we had more powerful weapons than we do. Maybe they wanted to instill fear in the population to control people through fear. But this looks like a miniature model to me. Look at the size of the dust. For one, why are the backgrounds just solid black? You can see the horizon, solid black. What is lighting up everything? I guess it's the blast. I don't know. There's a solid black background. You can see the horizon, seems too close. The dust looks too big. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is how you can tell if something's a miniature. This is what gives away the illusion on a movie when a miniature is used, like water drops are way too big if you have like a boat in a bathtub or something. And in this case, smoke is too big. The smoke cloud is as big as the whole house. I know that clouds of dust can be really big, but I'm talking about the dust that makes it up. Like, it looks way too big, and it's moving way too fast. All right, so I hope you guys are seeing some of that. There's some curious things. Every time the blast goes off, there's always this stuff that just, I don't know, comes off like powder. What is going on? We're going to look at some more anomalies here. And this one, where's the camera? The camera is inside the house. Inside the house, and the film was undamaged by radiation from a nuclear blast. We're talking about 1955 technology. This is film. Film, not digital, not super tough like technology or anything. All right, I hope this is making some people's wheels turn. Now here is how they made the scene in Terminator 2.
Also handled the miniature nuclear explosion. Their work impressed even federal nuclear weapons testing lab experts who called it the most realistic on-screen nuke.
What? The government said it was the most realistic on-screen nuke. Check this out.
Realistic on-screen nuke.
Wow. It looks very similar. Very similar. This is what the models looked like.
In order to create a nuclear disaster, Cameron called on the special effects artists at Forward Productions. Vast cityscapes were built in tremendous detail for the sole purpose of destroying them. Giant air blowers were used to blow apart the specially constructed miniature buildings, cars, and freeways.
Miniature air blowers. These air cannons, you can see it right here. That's an air cannon. And then it blows them away, and then the next scene you see a whole bunch of these air cannons that are being blown onto these buildings and just destroying them. And this is how it looks on set, though. Looks pretty realistic. I watched some more parts, and they were saying how they put like cereal, like spray painted cereal and stuff on the inside so that it looked like, you know, office furniture and stuff, like just chunks of material being blown out. So this is showing you how it could have been done. Those scenes that we were seeing from 1955, they could do air cannons. They could do miniatures. They could make a black background. I mean, people didn't even see, it seems like people didn't even question things back then. The moon landing, oh yeah, we went on the moon. I saw it on TV. You know, now we have the technology to watch these things over and over and watch them slow motion and rewind. People were just seeing stuff on TV. They didn't even have a VCR back then. If it came on TV, they saw it, and it was just like, this has to be real. It's on the news, and they can't go back and scrutinize the footage. They just have to accept what they saw. Now, I want you guys to see this, because this blew me away. What is going on here? I want to know, what are these plumes of smoke? Not the little scratches down there, but what are these plumes of smoke that are billowing up like black everywhere? Like there's here. There's, what are those, telephone poles? And is that dust coming off the telephone poles or something? Because I thought they built all this stuff just to, you know, built it in the desert to blow it up. But what is this stuff? What is that black smoke? And then this is real crazy. This next scene, man, this is insane. All right, I want you to pay attention to this thin line here. That is not that's not just like a scratch on the film or something. That is an antenna. You can see the same dust blowing off of it. You see the antenna up there. You see these wires. Now, watch what happens when it blows away. I mean, this is like an animation. All right, it blows away, right here. Oh, okay. What? It just folds and like disappears. Pay attention to that antenna right there. Beep. Doesn't that just look crazy? It's totally like an animation, like, poof. Wow. I mean, this is great. Well, for one, it went straight through those power lines like nothing. And it just crumples up. Looks like an animation straight up. I mean, is it just me? I see some people in the comment section. Seems like they are agreeing. Okay, it looks fake. Now, this one was 1952, called Ivy Mike. And look at what they're wanting us to buy right here. Okay, so this is a big, huge ball of fire. Everybody's looking at it, and look what happens. And then there's a transition. And what is that? Some kind of... What is that? All right, look at this. Guys, come on. Are we buying this? For one, I don't know how an explosion can be like a solid wall of bright light. That's like the sun. That's a solid object. It could very well be the sun. This could be like a zoomed in picture of the sun. And then suddenly they do a transition effect. Look at that. That is a transition effect. Why would every piece of that ball suddenly transition from super bright to whatever this is? This also is, everything is too large. What are these? Big bubbles that are way big. This is like a miniature, something small that they have looking large. Look at these particles. These particles are huge. Dude, I hope you understand what I'm saying. Like, imagine this is a video up close of a spark or something. Look how huge it is. We just saw what this is supposed to be looking like. I mean, it's supposed to be gigantic. Bam! And what are these particles that are huge? And then it switches to this. This is all the same footage. What is going on here? It's like another totally different blast. Why are the clouds moving so fast? Like it's time lapse. And it's not like the clouds are being blown away from the blast. They're moving towards the blast. Why are the clouds moving like it's time lapse? Look at this. What in the world? The clouds are just literally animated into existence. What is going on here? Look at this. Oh my, it's real, guys. I'm terrified. Dude, come on. 1952. They're pulling a fast one on us. All right, now, this is a guy who's reenacting a scene from a movie. I can't remember the name of the movie. But in the movie, they made the blast look like this. And he's going to show you how he recreated it. That's what he does. He recreates movie scenes.
And lastly is, of course, the nuclear explosion, which almost definitely was a miniature. So all we'll have to do is construct our own explosion, light it from the inside, and time it perfectly with tossing some dirt up in the air. Now that we've built a nuke, it's time to set it off. In 3, 2, 1...
So you saw what they had. He had this glowing ball that he spray painted and stuff. And this first scene is the scene from the movie. It's some German name or something, but like that's the scene from the movie. Hollywood production, and then here's their scene. The Hollywood movie, their scene. Hollywood, theirs. Pretty good. Pretty good at imitating the scene. But that's how easy it would be to make a video of an atomic blast that looks so fake, just like the ones that we were fed. I mean, this stuff... Let me see if I can show you that again. Doesn't that look like this? Come on, man. I'm not buying this, dude. This is as fake as the moon landing. All right. Here's another one, Operation Dominic. 1962. And I literally look like I feel like I'm watching a sunrise. That's all it was. It's like they're showing you a sunrise and adjusting the ISO so that it gets a lot of light in there and just turns completely blasted. Add a sound effect on there. Boom. That's what they showed us. Then here's another scene from the same. They did like 31 blasts, I think. I don't want to exaggerate. I thought that's what it said, though, for this Operation Dominic thing. And you can see right here, it says they call it Fireball 1962. And what is this? Is that the sun? I feel like I'm looking at the sun. Oh, wait. What are these little particles? What is that? And now, again, a transition. Why is it transition? Oh, my goodness. I hope you see that. You guys, that is a transition fade. That is CGI from the 50s. What was this? 1962. 1962 technology. This is like a Twilight Zone episode. That's what it looks like. The effects I've seen in Twilight Zone. And then it just stays like forever. What in the world? Alright. I hope you guys aren't buying this. Look at this. What? That is a cartoon. And so here's a picture of a nuke, which they tell us is 100 times brighter than the sun. I mean, when I heard that, I had to laugh. I laughed out loud when I heard that they said that the nuke is 100 times brighter than the sun. Here's a picture of the nuke. Here's a picture of the sun. Is that 100 times brighter than that? Dude, we're talking about 1950s film. When they went to the moon in 1969, I'm wondering why they didn't stand on the moon and pan around and say, look, there's Earth. Apparently they got some pretty good zoom lenses back in the day, because they got from 2 miles away right up on that house that was exploding during a nuclear war without even a vibration. And yet when they're on the moon, they can't pan and zoom in and say, look, there's Earth, and look, there's the sun. And I remember questioning, why don't they just turn around and show the sun? And they said, oh, it would destroy the camera. The sun would destroy the camera. They didn't say destroy the footage, destroy the camera itself. And yet here we are shooting nukes that are 100 times brighter than the sun in 1962 and 1955. All before the 1969 moon landing. You catch my drift? Like, this is what's happening, man. All right, check this guy. This guy's putting some pieces together. How none of the nuclear blast sites look any different than places that were carpet bombed. Check it out.
Is this Hiroshima? Is this Hiroshima? Is this Hiroshima? What's the difference again between an H.G. Wells atomic bomb and a traditional firebombing again? When we say firebombed or carpet bombed, we mean the land was pelted with M47s and M69s. Tokyo, Yokohama, Yokosuka, Nagoya, Osaka, Kobe, Akashi, and dozens of other towns and cities which had been subject to intensive air attack. Some of these towns are so close together that they seem almost continuous industrial sites. All of these areas of annihilation presented approximately the same visual pattern. The smaller towns were totally burned out. Seen from above, the prevailing color was pinkish, the effect produced by the piles of ash and rubble mixed with rusted metal. Similar pinkish carpets were spread out in the larger cities, except that among them stood large and small modern concrete buildings in factory structure, unscathed bridges, and other objects that had withstood the impact. Many of the buildings, of course, were gutted by fire, but this was not apparent from the air. But to my utter astonishment, Hiroshima from the air looked exactly like all the other burned-out cities I had observed. There was a familiar pink blot, about 2...
Are you noticing what's going on right there? The man is pointing at ground zero right here in this scene. Remember what we read about ground zero. From 0 to 5 miles is total destruction, bald spot. Like, that's where you should have an empty spot where everything flies out in every direction except for right where it's at. Look at all this rubble. How is that ground zero? All right, that's just something to think about.
Like all the other burned out cities I had observed, there was a familiar pink blot about 2 miles in diameter. It was dotted with charred trees and telephone poles. Only one of the city's 20 bridges was down. Hiroshima's cluster of modern buildings in the downtown section stood upright. It was obvious that the blast could not have been so powerful as we had been led to believe. It was an extensive blast rather than intensive. I had heard of buildings instantly consumed by unprecedented heat. Yet here I saw the buildings structurally intact, and what is more, topped by undamaged flagpoles, lightning rods, painted railings, air raid precaution signs, and other comparatively fragile objects. At the T-bridge, the aiming point for the atomic bomb, I looked for the bald spot where everything presumably had been vaporized in the twinkling of an eye. It wasn't there, or anywhere else. I could find no traces of unusual phenomena. What I did see was in substance a replica of Yokohama, or Osaka, or the Tokyo suburbs, the familiar residue of an area of wood and brick houses raised by uncontrollable fire. Everywhere, I saw the trunks of charred and leafless trees, burned and unburned chunks of wood. The fire had been intense enough to bend and twist steel girders, and to melt glass until it ran like lava, just as in other Japanese cities. The concrete buildings nearest to the center of explosion, some only a few blocks from the heart of the atom blast, showed no structural damage. Even cornices, canopies, and delicate exterior decorations were intact. Window glass was shattered, of course, but single-panel frames held firm. Only window frames of 2 or more panels were bent and buckled.
Isn't that crazy? No bald spot, and there's still buildings everywhere. It was not just flattened out. Like we're told, it was from 0 to 5 miles should be just complete destruction. That's what we read. So PolitiFact went on to continue, and it was saying there's been ample documentation of the nuclear tests conducted in the U.S. from 1945 to 1992 with immediate and long-term effects of nuclear weapons well reported. Nuclear testing worldwide largely stopped after countries, including the U.S., signed the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty. More than 225,000 people in Japan were killed or wounded by the atomic bombs the U.S. dropped over Hiroshima and Nagasaki in August 1945, and the subsequent radiation. Also, reporting has explored the adverse health effects people living closer to the nuclear testing sites in Nevada have experienced. We rate the claim that footage of nuclear explosions proves nukes are fake false. So this is a site kind of like Snopes, and they're trying to debunk it, and they're saying, oh, it's not fake. Nukes aren't fake because there's all these reports, is what they say. Reports. Remember, we also had a lot of reports of COVID deaths. Somebody got killed in a car wreck and it was COVID. Got killed by a shark attack, COVID, right? We had reports everywhere of things that aren't true. Interesting. Remember those types of things when you read stuff like this, and don't just buy into it because they're like trying to continue the propagation and trying to continue to keep the lie going. Don't buy into their deceptions. Now, here's a clip from Eric Dubé. I don't agree with everything he says. He's not a Christian, but he did some good research on this type of thing, and here's a short clip. He said something about nukes.
If the damage shown in footage from the aftermath of Hiroshima and Nagasaki was actually from these nuclear bombs, there would be a single central circular blast radius showing the most destruction at the center point, with gradually less expanding outwards. The debris and direction of destruction should all face outwards from this central location, and there should be an obvious blast crater at the site of impact. In World War II propaganda films, you can see footage of scientists pointing to the exact spot where the nuclear bomb supposedly landed on Hiroshima. Yet the area looks no different than any other, and has no discernible blast crater. The damage immediately around the point of impact is no worse or more pronounced than anywhere else. The destruction found throughout the two cities is in fact consistent with traditional firebombing, with all smaller wooden buildings decimated and only a few larger stone and reinforced concrete structures still standing. The propaganda films claim to show buildings with windows blown in one side and out the other, or Hiroshima Bridge having the paint burnt off only one side. But these examples are clearly cherry-picked to give the illusion of a single blast, when the overall destruction is similar to every other firebombed Japanese city.
So, yeah, he was pointing out the same thing, that there was no impact crater, no bald spot. The damage is the same all the way across. There's no place in the center that has the most damage, and the damage gets worse or less as it goes out. This is just carpet bomb all the way across. So, yes, nuclear explosions can cause deadly effects for thousands of years due to long-lived radionuclides. While most immediate fallout decays rapidly, certain isotopes, most notably plutonium-239, have half-lives of over 24,000 years, causing long-lasting contamination and general health effects to affected populations. So, yeah, this is a problem. You got nuclear blasts cause health problems for thousands of years. Well, this is what Nagasaki looks like right now. Beautiful. I mean, if you go to Nagasaki, you will see some beautiful plant life. You'll see thriving cities, healthy animals, healthy people. They're not mutants out there. They're living a great life out there in Nagasaki. So I think we've been lied to about this whole nuclear problem having thousands of years of radiation that's going to contaminate everything. And the same with Hiroshima. Same thing. Beautiful wildlife out there. Beautiful plants. It's all the same out there. Now, this guy, I want you guys to check this guy out, because he worked in the nuclear power plants. And he was doing his job for years, 20 years or something, handling the stuff. And then at some point, the big wigs came in and they were like, oh, we got all these protocols now, and you got to do this, and you got to do that. And he's like, what are you talking about? This stuff's harmless. And I know to you right now that might sound, wow, this guy's stupid. He's not listening to the science. Trust the science. He's deceived. He doesn't realize the long-term effects, all that stuff. This guy knew what he was talking about. Check this out.
The majority of his life, the last 35 years, he spent processing plutonium from nuclear reactor sites. He has worked in the Manhattan Project facilities in Hanford, Washington, Oak Ridge National Laboratories and Nuclear Plant in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, General Electric's Midwest Fuel Recovery Plant in Morris, Illinois, General Electric's Fuel Fabrication Facility in San Jose, California, and Wilmington, North Carolina. And he's worked in every major reactor decommissioning project around this nation up to this present time. He was responsible for measuring and controlling the nuclear fuel inventory for these projects.
We've been doing this thing for years now, and we've never been burned. Why have we got these rules? And they says, yours is not to ask questions, yours is to do and die. Don't you ask questions. If you do, you might disappear. Those who broke the rules didn't appear the next day. Military rule? Oh yes. Absolute? What was your appeal? And people you were working with one day, when they weren't there the next day, you didn't go inquire why. So you hooked these little heat sources up to thermionic converters, and you took electricity out this side. No moving parts. These things went into the SNAP program. And these early SNAP power generators are what powered the underwater transmitters for our nuclear navy. The power from it came from this material that they now call waste. Now in this plant is a beautiful pool. It's got a place to store spent fuel bundles till it won't stop. 660,000 gallons of water, demineralized, just as clear and pretty as it can be. Heated to 100 degrees Fahrenheit when the outside temperatures are minus 20, wind chill factors down to a minus 60, and I found out that I could swim in that rascal. You turn off the lights at night and it had a light blue Cherenkov effect. And this kid from Nevada that never could pass up a warm swimming hole used to go swimming in that pool. There wasn't anybody that had the nerve to swim with me, but since I was manager of safety and analytical service at this plant, it was mine to use. Oh boy, I found out that I could do that. I showed some financial types one time that I could stir that pool with my bare hand and check out through the same radiation monitors they did without triggering it.
He could stir this stuff with his hand and walk out and not trigger the monitors. I mean, I see people in the comments section. They think they're, smart because they've bought into the textbook lies, the propaganda, the indoctrination camps. Why would they lie about this? Well, why would they lie about a pandemic and do forced vaccines called Project Warp Speed, and now people are dropping dead? Why? Because it's all about control. It's all about fear. We're actually going to go into why a little more. But for one, they want you in constant fear to think that nuclear war could happen at any time. Remember, Bible prophecy is about a one world religion, a one world government, and so Satan has to create a catastrophe that affects the entire world, whether it's climate change or pandemics or nukes. These are all things that affect. It's not like 9/11 that only affected New York. It only affected America. We're talking about climate change, the whole world. Pandemic, the whole world has to mask up. Nukes, we could blow up the whole world. Something's got to change. We need to unite together. United Nations, peace. And what does the Bible say? That Satan is going to come declaring peace and safety. He's not going to come in the name of we need to just kill everybody, kill Christians. No, it's going to look like one world religion, unity, kumbaya. We all have the same God. How do you get people to that point? You bring them to utter desperation, fear, war, chaos, order out of chaos. And so, yes, there are things in the past that we thought were healthy, like smoking cigarettes was good for asthma and all this stuff. I don't believe that. I do believe that we found out that this stuff's toxic for you. But there are other situations where they say things things were good, and then they say they were bad when they're not really bad. All right? We're going to get into all that.
He didn't like it. I got a letter from him that says, "Thou shalt not tell financial types that you can swim in the pool, that you can stir it with your hand, because if they find that out, they will steal the inventory. They will know that the inventory can be stolen." Oh, is that a valuable inventory? The same material that's labeled high-level waste by our current government. A guy by the name of Mo Udall, I don't know whether you people in Arizona have ever heard of him or not, authored that bill. It's called the High-Level Waste Disposal Act of 1982. The material he called waste is the reusable uranium fuel that I had been working on for 32 years.
So you see what's going on? There's this usable substance that now they're calling waste, so they can create these whole programs and protocols, and you got to wear these hazmat suits, and you got to bury this stuff 3,000 feet in the ground, and it costs millions of dollars, and now we can charge that onto the people because as a fee, as a cleanup fee, now you're paying high costs for electric bills because, it's to pay for waste cleanup and all these protocols and everything. These protocols they're not necessary. This guy worked with the stuff for 20 years.
The government says bury it 3,000 feet deep in basalt, and we'll hold a contest among the states to see who gets to bury it. Oh, why do you want to bury it? The emissions from uranium, plutonium, cesium, all of those things are only important if you assemble an amount that if you get this amount and this amount together, it can go critical. You can get a blue flash and therefore get burned. And that's happened 34 times in the business, and 8 men have died as a result of that. Accidental criticality, documented in Los Alamos document 3611, if you want to check the source. And finally, one day I said, my own personal security is not important. I think I'll go tell this tale. All I want is to tell my story. The commodity that I communicate is called truth. And so then I ask you a question, a very brief, pointed question. Who owns the plutonium and how much is it worth? And then I'm going to attach on to that a question I want you to think about till we talk again. If you haven't been burned by this particular source of radiation, what is your problem? You obviously have one. Otherwise, you would join with me in telling the truth about this particular commodity. And so yes, I'm recruiting helpers. What happened to the guys who taught me the business? Thousands of them, the hands-on business. Where are they? They're still there. Why don't they talk? Who are the they that say this is the way the business is going to be run, whether it makes sense or not?
So what he's saying makes sense. He's saying, look, who owns this stuff? He says, I believe that the people who pay for it own it. So if you're paying your electric bill, then you own the power source, and yet they're not asking you if they can dispose of it. I really recommend anybody watch this whole video. It's an hour and a half long. The guy goes, it's like 3 different sessions altogether. He goes in depth. This is total control, corruption. It's all about owning the power. If we knew the truth, we would be able to have our own power plant in our own backyard and powering our whole house for free with some uranium rocks and a tunnel around it, a tube around it with a fan overhead, because all it's doing is producing steam. We're going to look at that, man. All right, so what is a PSYOP? A PSYOP, short for psychological operation, is a strategic campaign designed to influence the emotions, reasoning, and behavior of a target audience, usually without their realization. Originating as a military tactic to confuse enemies and sway civilian morale, it uses propaganda, misinformation, and targeted messaging. Key elements of a PSYOP: the objective is to shift how a target group thinks or acts rather than physically defeating them. So if they can convince us, if they can put fear in us about certain things, they have the control, right? They can make you fear the opposite race. Oh, they Black Lives Matter and all this stuff. They can make you fear the opposite political party. Oh, those liberals, they're crazy. They can make you fear ivermectin instead of the shot. They can make you fear drinking water out of a natural spring. Oh no, it's got to be chlorinated and fluoridated. You can't drink it right out of the spring. Are you crazy? You're going to die. Drinking God's natural, pure water. I drink it like that all the time. I love going to the spring. It's the freshest, cleanest, purest, coldest water I've ever tasted. And people say, you don't even filter it or nothing? No, have you seen what's in the pipes? Rust, fluoride, chlorine. It's disgusting. Straight from God's green earth. The media, disseminated across various channels such as social media, radio broadcasts, digital marketing, and printed leaflets. Real-world application used by governments and military branches such as the U.S. Army Psychological Operations Branch to gain strategic advantages in warfare or crisis zones. So could we be under psychological warfare right now? Could the powers that be controlling us through programming, controlled media, lies, fear? Yes, definitely. You know that war and military is all about deception, psychological warfare. This is how they win wars, through lies, deceit, deception, like inflatable tanks, inflatable jeeps, inflatable guns. It's deception. And you think that we are in this, the land of the free. Our government doesn't lie to us. That's other countries. They're the ones that have propaganda, not us. We're America, Babylon, proud, strong. We have the truth, right? No. People use, so I'm going to shift gears here. I'm going to shift gears because why the lie? Why the lie about nuclear bombs existing? For one, nuclear bombs is to create fear, instill fear in people. There could be a nuclear war. It's going to be World War III. And I believe that World War III will lead to New World Order, a false sense of peace and safety. And it's going to look like a perfect utopia. And Satan's going to appear as Christ, doing lying signs and wonders, and will deceive the entire world through means of those miracles, like the Bible says. I believe that. It's going to be order out of chaos. How do you bring about the chaos? You make up lies like pandemics and climate change and nukes. Makes perfect sense. There's another side to this coin. Besides nuclear bombs and weapons, what about nuclear power? We have all these images of nuclear. We think of green sludge being poured into the rivers and three-eyed fish coming out of it, right? And mutated turtles and things like that. This is what we think of when we think of nuclear power. None of that's even true. You can look it up right now. Look up a nuclear physicist and they're going to tell you, oh, it's not even green sludge. It's nothing that cool. It's actually just these rods that go up and down in some water and cause steam. Steam to make a fan spin and produces power. So this guy was saying that all this stuff was harmless. He's touching it with his hand. He's swimming in the cooling pools. And eventually he says he's drinking the water and everything to prove to people that it is harmless. This guy went around giving these presentations for years, licking uranium, proving to people that it's completely harmless. And yet the powers that be came in and said, wait a minute. If people know that this is harmless and a natural resource, they could actually harness it and have their own power plant in their own backyard. We got to stop that. We got to put fear in people that all this stuff is so toxic. You have to have a hazmat on and you got to bury it 3,000 feet in the ground. Don't even come near the stuff. And they put out propagation campaigns. All right. But there was a time when people used depression glasses. Depression glasses. I'm talking about like glasses you drink out of. And tableware containing radium and uranium, primarily to achieve an eye-catching glow, neon yellow or green color. Because radioactivity was a newly discovered phenomenon in the 20th century, these materials were also utilized to capitalize on the public's fascination with radioactive trends. The uranium glass phenomenon. The look, adding uranium oxide to molten glass, produced a highly sought-after brilliant fluorescent hue. When exposed to ultraviolet light, the glassware produced an eerie green or yellow glow. This is where the whole idea of the green goo comes from. The era, while it is commonly associated with the Depression era, 1930s. This is when this was going on, in the 1930s. When glass makers tried to produce cheaper, cheerful products, uranium was actually used as glass colorant as early as the 1830s. Now, the 1830s. Oh my goodness, I just realized I said 1830s, all right? Now, I already know some people are like, they're screaming out, uranium girls and radium girls and all this stuff. And they're thinking that they're smart because they've already heard the stories. And man, people were stupid back in the 1800s and the early 1900s. If they were only smart like we are today, right? That's what people think, that we're smart today. TikTok, Beavis and Butthead, like all the stuff, this 6-7, all this stuff. We're smart, right? Come on, man. This is what it looked like. Depression glasses, uranium glasses, radium glasses. When you put people collect these things as antique collectors items now. They put them on a shelf and they put a black light on them and they glow in this really cool looking way. But it's made out of radium. So it's like, but back then nobody even batted an eye at that. They're like, Oh, cool, this stuff glows in the dark. Awesome. They didn't think of anything harmful about it. Safety. Though this sounds hazardous by modern standards, the uranium oxide used was heavily diluted in the glass mixture. Most antique pieces emit only slightly more radiation than a standard banana, making them generally safe to display, provided they are not ingested. So here they're saying, look, it's safe to display them, but you still shouldn't drink off of them or eat off of them. Even though it's admitting that it only puts out as much radiation as a standard banana. So we can only display bananas, we can't eat bananas, right? Crazy. The radium craze. The trend following Marie Curie's discovery of radium in 1898, radioactivity was viewed as a beneficial, futuristic, and even healing property. Are you guys catching that? Even a healing property. That radium was considered a healing property at one point in time. And now they give you the propaganda, quack cures. Manufacturers capitalized on this positive perception, marketing radium and uranium to evoke feelings of luxury and modern wellness. So, look, I'm sitting here saying it's propaganda and stuff like that. This is only because I've looked into this further. Look, I'm as nervous about radiation as the next guy. I thought the same thing. Look, when I go to the airport, I opt out for the body scan. We fly 20 times a year, something like that. I opt out. And just so you know, you can do that. When you get to the body scanner, just say, I'm an opt out, and they'll sigh and huff, and then they'll call, hey, we got an opt out. But after 5 minutes or so, somebody will come out and they'll pat you down everywhere, and they'll let you through. You don't have to put yourself in that radiation tube. I don't trust that type of stuff. I don't trust x-rays. I don't trust the big scanner. I stay away from that stuff. But what we're talking about is radium and uranium. It's a natural resource. You find it in the ground. It's on rocks. It's in water. It's in bananas. And yet we're being told that this was some crazy thing, like, oh, quack cures. People used to think that it healed you. Well, it's in our food. We're going to look more into that. Why the trend stopped. The mass manufacturing of uranium and radium housewares abruptly ended during World War II in the 1940s. In the 1940s, the government placed strict restrictions on all uranium use, redirecting the radioactive material to military and nuclear weapons development. By the time the atomic age concluded, public perception had shifted. People grew fearful of nuclear dangers, and the use of radioactive elements in everyday household objects ceased. So this was like 20 years. 20 years, people were eating off this stuff, drinking out of glasses. And we're going to see they actually put it into products. This was a radium water dispenser. It glows in the dark. Well, it glows under black light. You fill it up and it says a radon water dispenser made out of uranium glass, dating from the late 1920s dating from the late 1920s. The uranium is used as a decorative colorant in the glass, while a separate radon source would be placed in the dispenser to add radioactivity to the water. Look, it's already made out of radiated glass. Now you put a separate thing in there with extra radiation into the water. Uranium glass is not associated with any quantifiable hazard, but radioactivity added to drinking water in the manner of this device is considered risky and responsible for human deaths. That's what they're saying. That I'd like to see the records. Show me the records. People died from drinking water out of this. Then there was this thing called the Revigator. Now this is on the Museum of Radiation and Radioactivity. These things were around from 1924 to 1926, so they only lasted 2 years, I guess. It says right here, though, advertised as an original radium or patent water crock, it sold in the hundreds of thousands between 1924 and 1930. So for 6 years, they sold hundreds of thousands of these things. Hundreds of thousands. And it says right there, users were provided the following printed instructions on the side of the jar. Fill jar every night. Use hydrant or any good water. Drink freely when thirsty and upon arising and retiring. Average 6 or more glasses daily. Scrub with a stiff brush and scald monthly. So a Revigator is an antique ceramic water crock from the 1920s designed to infuse drinking water with radioactivity. It operated as a form of 20th century quack medicine, promising to cure everything from arthritis to senility by making the water healthful and radioactive. Key details of how it worked. The setup: the heavy earthenware jug featured a porous inner lining made of uranium-bearing ore, or carnotite. The process: users filled the jar with tap water at night. As the radium decayed, it released radon gas into the water. The hidden danger, ironically researched by the National Institute of Standards and Technology, or NIST, revealed that the actual danger of drinking from the Revigator came not from the radiation, but from the lead and arsenic that dissolved into the water from the ore. So even though they're telling you that people died from this stuff, they're saying, look, it wasn't the radiation. I don't even know that anybody died. I have a hard time believing that people, hundreds of thousands of people, died, and they linked it back to this thing. I don't think so. But anyway, they're saying that the radiation was not the problem. They were using radium, and all kinds of stuff. Beauty products that made your skin glow, that made zits go away, that made wrinkles go away. They literally had radium in the makeup. Thoradia. Look at this. Don't go gray. Caradium. Hair restorer. So radium was in this hair wash, and you put it in your hair, and it prevented you from going gray. It made people's hair grow back. That's what they were saying back then. Where is natural radium found? Radium is a naturally occurring, highly radioactive metal formed by the decay of uranium and thorium. It is ubiquitous in the environment and is typically found in trace amounts in virtually all rocks, soil, and groundwater supplies. Are you hearing that? Radium is found in virtually all rocks, soil, and groundwater supplies, meaning if you're drinking water naturally, you're getting radium. If you're eating fruits and vegetables out of the soil, you're getting radium. If you touch rocks, you're getting radium. Radium is a naturally occurring thing. Our bodies are radioactive. We're going to go into that. Major geological and natural sources: uranium ores. Radium is always present in uranium minerals. The richest natural sources are minerals like uraninite, and carnotite. Soil and rocks. It exists at ultra trace levels in almost all soils and rocks, averaging about 1 part per trillion. Higher concentrations occur naturally in phosphate rock deposits, alum shales, and granites. Groundwater. Trace quantities of radium isotopes frequently leach into groundwater and drinking water supplies depending on the local bedrock. So this is natural stuff. So how do hot springs work? Radium hot springs. Have you ever went to a hot spring and bathed in one? Have you ever wanted to? I do. I want to go to Colorado and check out one. Radium hot springs are naturally heated geothermal waters that contain trace amounts of the radioactive element radium and radon gas. The most famous and prominent examples is located in Sinclair Canyon at Kootenay National Park in British Columbia, Canada. While they are highly celebrated for restorative practices and relaxation, the scientific consensus on their physical health benefits is mixed. So are they beneficial? Stress and tension relief, the physical act of soaking in warm water, typically between 37 to 40 degrees Celsius or 98 degrees to 104 degrees Fahrenheit, relaxes muscles, calms the mind, and significantly lowers cortisol levels. So they're saying, look, these hot springs do have some benefits, but it's probably just because the water's warm. Improve circulation. The heat and mineral content can cause blood vessels to dilate, temporarily increasing blood flow. Joint and muscle soothing. Many visitors with arthritis, fibromyalgia, or sports injuries report temporary relief from aches and improved joint flexibility. So people are going to these hot springs with radium, and they are getting relief from arthritis and aches and pains. Trace minerals. Aside from radon, these springs often contain a rich mix of dissolved minerals like silica, magnesium, and sulfate, which can feel deeply nourishing to the skin. The radium factor. Historically, particularly in the 19th and 20th centuries, waters emitting trace amounts of radon were believed to cure ailments ranging from rheumatism to cancer. Today, modern medicine considers the trace amounts of radiation and radioactive gases in naturally occurring hot springs to be too minimal to cause acute harm. So they're not harmful, is what they're saying, but also lacks evidence to prove that they possess unique magical healing properties. Most experts agree that any therapeutic benefits come from the relaxing, heated water rather than trace radioactivity. But look at this article on the Washington Post. It is amazing that I was even able to read this because I'm not a subscriber and I couldn't see it on my phone. Wouldn't let me read it unless I was a subscriber, but somehow I was able to see it on my computer. This article was from September 29th, 1979. 46 years ago, more than 46 years ago. Hundreds sitting in abandoned mine hoping to be cured of their ailments. While anti-nuclear forces are attempting to shut down uranium mines because of possible radiation dangers, hundreds of persons are sitting in abandoned mines here in the belief that it will cure their ailments. Hoping to rid themselves of ailments ranging from asthma to arthritis, they're coming from throughout the United States, Canada, and Europe to breathe radioactive radon gas and drink from the underground spring water in the mines. In the free enterprise mine, people take an elevator 85 feet into the ground and sit on automobile cushions in street clothes, talking, sleeping, or reading for three 1.5-hour sessions a day at $4 each visit in the winter. And this guy says, "We don't claim the mine has healing powers," said John Lewis, free enterprise manager, "but we've got affidavits from many people who claim they've been cured by their visits." The free enterprise has been in this business since 1952. One visitor from the Midwest coming across the mines while looking for ghost towns in Montana was appalled. Charles Honaker, director of communication for the American College of Radiation in Chicago, is a medical writer. He's done a lot of research, or he's done a lot of writing on the effects of radiation. "I was horrified at the idea of people drinking the water from the mines," Honaker said. "It's been proven that breathing radon gas into the lungs produces a very high rate of lung cancer among uranium miners," he said. The State Occupational Safety and Health Bureau has been making periodic checks at the health mines since 1971, according to Bureau Chief Larry Lloyd. The water from the underground springs meet federal standards for drinking water, he said. His bureau notifies each mine of the maximum number of hours that people can safely breathe the air that contains radon gas. For example, they can spend a total of 13 hours a year in the Earth Angel and 32 hours a year in the Free Enterprise, according to Bureau rules. Dr. Stanley Skinner, Boulder's only physician, said the people who come to Boulder to visit the mines are usually older people who are suffering from some chronic condition. Physicians haven't been able to help them. The mines are their last resort of hope. Although it's never been scientifically proven that the mines are beneficial, Skinner said he has talked to many people who said time spent breathing the mine air has helped them. He also sees people whose health hasn't been improved by mine visits. They seek out the local doctor if their condition deteriorates while they're here, he said. The majority of those who come to the mines suffer from rheumatoid arthritis, a disease characterized by inflammation of the joints and stiffness in the limbs. Others suffer from such ailments as bursitis, asthma, emphysema, or sinus condition. One person who is sold on the mine's curative powers is Boulder's Mayor George Christensen, who has been going to the mines since 1956. He has arthritis. Visits seem to make the entire symptom percolate better, Christensen said. They say the air stimulates the whole endocrine gland system, especially the pituitary gland. One man who said he improved his sinus condition by visiting a mine was Tom Dawson of Boulder, deputy sheriff for Jefferson County. He went to a health mine a couple of times 2 years ago in hopes that his sinus condition would improve. He said, "I haven't had any problems since then," he said. This is crazy. So here's mayors and sheriffs and hundreds of people from all over the world coming to breathe radon gas. And they are actually saying that I haven't had a single sinus problem since. And my arthritis stops acting up when I'm in this mine. So History Channel was saying radium, the deadly health fad of the early 1900s. So they're saying now that all this stuff was quackery, that we know better now, that this stuff is harmful. But for some reason, in the early 1900s, people believed that they were feeling more energized, that their joints weren't hurting, that their asthma was going away, that pimples were going away, that gray hair wasn't coming, that wrinkles were going away, that their skin had a glow to it. I know that sounds comical. But could it be that this natural element that God created is actually not harmful? Could it be? Could it be that the elites want us to be sick? Could it be that there might be a natural cure for things that they want to continue to give us pharmaceuticals for, to keep big pharma in business? Just a thought. Could be. Check out what this guy says here.
That you swam in this water that was straight from spent fuel used to cool that fuel, and
Yes.
you swam in it.
Yep.
You told me earlier that you went a little bit beyond that. Would you share a little bit of that story?
Well, swimming in it didn't have the desired effect. So I decided I had to be more direct with these people that were giving me trouble. They're kind of hard to teach, so I went to drinking a glass of it a day. I had the bottle of it. Last time I went swimming, I filled this 2-liter bottle with water and washed it off on the outside in the shower when I washed me off on the outside so that we didn't tattletale. You know, radioactive material is just a trace or a tattletale. So you got to get it off so they won't know that you've been swimming in the pool and drinking the water. So I took this bottle in and set it on my desk. And who would suspect that the manager of safety and analytical service had a bottle of spent fuel pool water sitting on his desk, and he drank a glass of it every day.
This was unheard of.
Nobody ever did that crazy stunt before.
How has that affected you, Galen?
Well, as near as I can tell, it made me about 6'4" in my cowboy boots, 210 pounds, and really quite a nice fellow. Okay, radioactive material.
Check this out.
You pour it out in the hand, and that's radioactive contamination. Is it radioactive? Yeah, it is. Very radioactive. Now, decontamination is nothing but scooping it back up and putting it into the bottle. I just now decontaminated my hand. No, I didn't do such a good job. Not good at all. Is it still radioactive? Yeah, that's called residual radioactivity. Now, under the decontamination rules of the government, when you decontaminate somebody like this that's that contaminated, and this is certainly a reportable incident under current DOE regulations, when you decontaminate him, it has to go down a controlled drain so that you don't disperse radioactivity. Do I qualify as a controlled drain? That material that I just ate is not soluble in body fluids. The stuff is so fine that it has no texture to it. Doesn't even feel rough. So it's tasteless, odorless, has no texture. How's it supposed to hurt me? Because I've been eating this on lecture tour for 2 years, the state of Washington felt it necessary to confiscate my uranium samples so that I would be safe.
Because the government cares so much for his safety, they took away his uranium that he was eating for 2 years. He's eating this stuff constantly. This guy never had an ill effect from it. He swam in the swimming pool at the nuclear power plant. He drank the water to prove to people there's nothing wrong with this. This guy put his life on the line saying things that his friends disappeared for because he wanted the truth to get out there. That they're trying to control you through fear. Fear of nuclear war, fear of what is actually free energy. Free energy. This is a natural resource put into, we're going to look at, let me show you. Everyday environments. Because it is naturally occurring, you interact with trace amounts of radium in your daily life. Food and vegetation. It is absorbed from the soil into food crops and water. Certain foods, such as Brazil nuts, contain measurable levels because the tree roots absorb significant amounts of radium from the soil. Fossil fuels. Small amounts of radium are naturally present in coal and oil. During extraction and combustion, it can occasionally become concentrated, such as in oil and gas pipe scale. Many everyday foods emit natural radiation, primarily due to potassium-40 and radium absorbed from the soil. While this sounds alarming, these tiny natural doses are perfectly safe. The human body is also naturally radioactive. Wait a minute, our bodies are naturally radioactive? Maybe radiation is actually good for us. Maybe it energizes us. Maybe we're like a battery running out of energy and radium actually energizes us and is good for our cells. It says the human body is also naturally radioactive and strictly regulates these elements without accumulating dangerous levels. The BBC Science Focus explores these radioactive quirks. Understanding how they work clarifies what is happening in your kitchen. So, naturally radioactive foods, according to science, several common items in your pantry are radioactive, though the levels of radiation are entirely harmless. Brazil nuts, the most naturally radioactive food. Their deep root system draw up radium from the soil and in high concentrations. So Brazil nuts have a high concentration of radium. Bananas, famous for their potassium content, a small fraction of this potassium is the radioactive isotope potassium-40. Other foods, butter beans, potatoes, carrots, avocados, red meat, all possess natural traces of radiation. Now, think about this. Do you actually believe that the government cares about us? I mean, cigarettes are FDA approved, but trying to use a natural remedy could have you thrown in jail because it's not FDA approved. They were forcing a Project Warp Speed jab on everyone. And now they're saying, oops, sorry, it wasn't that harmless. Sorry for the people that died. Think about this. They don't care about your health. All the food has poison in it. It's the love of money is the root of all evil, right? How do you keep the pharmaceutical industry alive? You keep people sick. You diagnose every artistic kid or kid with a lot of energy as ADHD. Look, they want everyone to have a diagnosis. They want everyone on a pill. They want everyone sick. And they want everyone controlled through fear. They want to control your energy, your power. They want to control you through fear. They want to control your health. They want to keep you sick because the love of money is the root of all evil. That's why it's okay to put toxic chemicals in food to make it last a little longer on the shelf. There's another $1 for you. Another $1 a day. Who cares about the people's health? You think the elite are eating the garbage that we are? No, the elites are actually sitting in the hot springs because they know the benefit of it. They're actually eating off of radium glassware because they know the benefit of it. They don't care about your health, and therefore they're going to make up a food pyramid that we now have been told, oh, it was upside down. Whoops, the food pyramid was upside down. Now it's right. No, they don't care. The food pyramid was never to make you healthy. The banana equivalent dose, the BED. Nuclear scientists use the banana as an informal unit of measurement to explain radiation exposure to the public. Eating one banana exposes a person to roughly 0.1 microsieverts of radiation. To put this in perspective, one transatlantic flight equivalent to eating about 800 bananas. Okay, so if I take a transatlantic flight, I'm getting exposed to 800 bananas worth of radiation. A dental x-ray equal to 50 bananas. A lethal dose. You would need to eat 50 million bananas at once to experience a fatal dose of radiation. Look, all things, even good things, can be harmful if done in excess, right? Bananas, great for you. I would go as far as to say the radiation element of bananas is good for you. But don't eat 50 million in one sitting. It literally says you have to eat 50 million bananas at once to experience a fatal dose of radiation. So yes, high doses, penetrated doses of radiation targeting your body, bad. Mutate cells, no good. But radium in general is a natural thing that our radiating bodies need. Our bodies are radioactive. Right here. Is the human body radioactive? Yes, humans are naturally radioactive. We emit a tiny harmless amount of radiation because our bodies absorb trace amounts of radioactive elements from the food we eat, the water we drink, and the air we breathe. So radiation's in everything that we consume. Potassium is essential for your nerves and muscles. A tiny fraction of the potassium in your body is the radioactive isotope potassium-40. This is the largest source of natural internal radioactivity in humans. Carbon-14, this is the same radioactive isotope used in radiocarbon dating. Because you consume carbon by eating, a small, continuous amount of carbon-14 becomes part of your body. How much radiation do we emit? The radiation is extremely small and not harmful. Scientists often measure it in the banana equivalent dose, because bananas are also naturally rich in potassium. For example, sleeping next to someone for 8 hours exposes you to about the same amount of radiation as eating 1.5 bananas. Is potassium radioactive? Yes. Potassium is naturally, weakly radioactive. While most of it is stable, a tiny fraction consists of a radioactive isotope called potassium-40. This natural trace amount makes potassium one of the largest sources of natural radioactivity in the human body and the environment. Is potassium good for our bodies? Yes. Potassium is essential for your health. It is an electrolyte that regulates your heartbeat, helps your muscles contract, and enables nerve signals. Are you hearing this? Potassium, which is radioactive, is essential for your health. It's an electrolyte that regulates your heartbeat, helps your muscles contract, and enables nerve signals. So, use basic math here. Potassium equals radium. Body needs radium, right? The body needs radium. This is a fact. This isn't some conspiracy theory. It's not some harmful thing to say. This is a fact. To all you skeptics that are in the comment section or whatever, we need radium. Not in high doses. Just like we wouldn't take anything in high doses. We shouldn't exceed the recommended dose, right? Bananas, famous for their high potassium content, which actually inspired the scientific joke unit of measurement called the banana equivalent dose. Brazil nuts. So here's some of the highest ranking radium foods. Bananas, Brazil nuts, potatoes and carrots or root vegetables, and salt substitutes. Pay attention. This is in a group that I follow that has nearly 200,000 followers, people who collect uranium glass. And this person says, I've been going down the rabbit hole and decided to see for myself. I bought these bananas 9 days ago and wrapped the tip in plastic to see how long it would take to spoil. I put one in the uranium jadeite refrigerator box and the other on the counter away from the uranium box. As you can see, the one in the uranium box was kept preserved while the other did its normal thing. So I decided to eat it to see what would happen. And I felt like this overwhelming feeling to get up and start moving around. Nothing crazy. I've also been eating ice cream out of my sherbet cup and drinking from Vaseline glasses. That's also radium glasses. They call them depression glasses. They call them Vaseline glasses. But this guy's eating ice cream out of it now, and he's drinking from his glass. Not sure if I believe the masses that using uranium glass products are bad for our health. I'd love to hear what you guys think in the comments. So, our bodies are radioactive. Bananas are radioactive. Bananas die when they sit outside of radiation, but when it's inside the radium box, what happens? Its life is preserved. Now look, this banana's only, how old? 9 days old? 6 days old? Something like that. Where was it? 9 days. These bananas are 9 days old. Look what a banana looks like in 9 days, and watch what this guy does with his uranium glass. He puts the banana in the glass because he said that he was told that food is preserved when it's stored in a uranium glass or a radium glass. So here's day one. Day 3, not much has changed. Here's day 5. Here's day 7. Wait, day 7? Day 9. What did that banana look like on day 9 on the previous slide? That thing was all brown. Day 9. Day 11. Day 13. This isn't even enclosed. It doesn't even have a lid on it. Day 15. Day 17. Day 19. This is 10 days older than the banana in the previous slide. Look at that banana. That thing is 10 days older than this banana on the left. All because it was inside of a glass with no lid on top of it. I hope you guys are like starting to think. Here's a guy who actually bought one of these Revigator things because he's catching on that radium's actually good for your body.
Radium water bottle. It's called the Revigator. There is radium ore inside this, inside the clay. But it's interesting because they were healing people with this right here. And this thing is just mammoth. Like, it's a challenge to hold this right now. So watch this. Ready? You can hear that. Right there. So that is as radioactive as it gets. That's at 45 up to 90. If you guys can see that water right there? So this is radioactive water. And now the government would tell you this is dangerous if you do this. Yeah, you've been duped. That's what it is. I have gone on this whole journey understanding that we have been lied to about the benefits of radium. And it's interesting because when you drink a little bit of radium water, what happens is you feel real calm, you feel real zen, you feel real focused in, and the world is just a peaceful place. So think about that.
I love it. Which foods have the most traces of radium? We were looking at this. Brazil nuts have the highest radium content. Lima beans, bananas, root vegetables. Now ask yourself, are these foods harmful or are they beneficial? BBC Science Focus says top 10 which are the most radioactive foods, and they say Brazil nuts at number 1, avocados at number 7, but in between is butter beans, bananas, potatoes, carrots, red meat, beer, water, peanut butter. All right, now don't be trying to jump to conclusions like, oh, beer must be good for you then. Man, there's so many things in beer that is not good for you, and it's killing brain cells. But are Brazil nuts good for you? Are avocados good for you? Are carrots and butter beans? Check it out. This is American Cancer Fund anti-aging foods. What's on the list for anti-aging foods? There's avocados at number 4. There's Brazil nuts. It only lists 8 foods on this site. 2 of the 8 are some of the highest radium foods. And what do? They're anti-aging. Just like we saw with the banana. If a banana is a living organism and we are a living organism, and man, evolutionists think that we are literally like one step up from a banana. If we're that close to a banana and the banana lives triple its life longer just because it's sitting in an open radium glass, that would make me think, I'd conclude that the radium is actually helping the life of the banana. So what if I were in that glass? Would it preserve my life? Would it make my cells happier and healthy? Well, according to anti-aging foods, the high radium foods like avocados and Brazil nuts, the highest of all, are on the list. Is it a coincidence? Look, we've been lied to about everything. About where we live, about nuclear weapons, about climate change, about pandemics. They want us to stay in fear. They want us to be dumb. They want us to be unhealthy so they can control everything. And they're doing it. But we can break free from that by a little bit of research. To me, like I said, this is educational, entertainment purposes only. But what are you concluding to? What I'm seeing is natural occurring radium is beneficial. Listen to what this guy says. It's about 5 minutes long.
Marie Curie worked with this stuff for 36 years. And she was exposed to quantities of this stuff that very few people would be able to afford. At $10 million a gram, this stuff isn't going to accidentally be left in a baggie somewhere. And then when it comes to the radium girls, there are no exact figures for the number of girls who actually suffered severe side effects. I could only find the one picture of the one girl with any actual tumors. And once again, they were exposed to quantities that nobody else would ever be around. And then there was Eben Byers who drank 1,400 bottles of this stuff. But outside of them, there were millions of people using products containing this stuff. The rich socialites that could afford this even threw radium tea parties. And all kinds of people touted the positive benefits of radium. So now let me put all this into perspective. A positive beneficial dose of radium was measured in microcuries. 1 gram of radium equals 1 million microcuries. On the left here is 1 gram of platinum. So imagine dividing that up into a million different pieces. We're talking a couple of molecules of this stuff equals 1 microcurie. So the people that were actually harmed by radium were exposed to millions of times the suggested dose of this. Oh, now let's look at this stuff. Would anybody argue right now that this should be illegal? Well, probably not. It definitely has some positive anti-inflammatory qualities to it, right? But what if you ate 1 million of these? What if you ate the whole bottle of this? It's the same thing with Tylenol too. Every medicine in the world. If you take just 10 times the suggested amount, it's going to have very negative effects on you. And how many people has this stuff offed in the last 100 years since it was invented? Somewhere between 21 to 25 million people. How many people is radium harmed? A handful. Even vitamin C in high enough doses is going to harm you. Anything in a high enough dose is bad for you. So for 25 years, this was used as a miracle cure, treating all kinds of ailments. And then a handful of people were harmed by this. There was a big media circus demonizing it, and they made the public too afraid to even touch this stuff because a handful of people were exposed to millions of times the suggested amount of it. And who do you think led this media circus to demonize it? Well, I don't have hard evidence yet, but I'm looking strong in J.D. Rock's direction. Because this was around the time that the American Medical Association started standardizing allopathic medicine. And what is allopathic medicine? Well, for the most part, the use of petrochemicals to make the medicine. Who controls the petrochemicals? J.D. Rock. So he sunk hundreds of millions of dollars into this new line of thinking, also demonizing natural homeopathic cures, which then diminished in the U.S. Many schools practicing alternative forms of medicine were shut down, and some doctors even jailed. So this was the medicinal mafia that took over healthcare in America. So is everybody seeing the bigger picture here? Good. So let's do a quick review. Radium, where we get almost all of our cases of negative health effects from, is 2.7 million times more radioactive than uranium. So people can work around this stuff all day long for their entire lives and be just fine. And like Galen Winsor said, yes, it's dangerous if you get enough of this stuff in a small area and then fire a proton into it, setting off a chain reaction. But if you're outside of that initial blast zone like these guys are, then you're going to be perfectly fine. So basically everything you've ever heard about fallout and nuclear winter is BS. The world has done 2,000 open air tests with this stuff, and it never caused a nuclear winter before. Why would it if we do it one more time? But that's what they tell you every time the possibility of a nuclear war pops up. We'll make the world uninhabitable for 20,000 years, just like Chernobyl, which is now one of the most thriving natural ecosystems on Earth. Seriously, go watch some of the documentaries like Wolves of Chernobyl. They have the largest wolf pack on Earth in Chernobyl. There are literally 6-foot-long catfish swimming in little streams, not because they're mutated, but because they've been left alone long enough to go their natural route. So we could literally be having $5 a year electric bills. It's too dangerous to do that with, but if you need to power more AI, then it's fine.
Boom. That was like truth bomb. We could have $5 a year electric bill if we just made this right here. You know what that is? That is a tube around water with a bunch of natural radium in it that causes the water to boil and produces steam and turns a fan, turns a turbine. It's like perpetual motion. It's free energy. Of course, they're going to make you fearful of some natural resource that's free energy. But God created it. It's in everything we eat. It's in what we drink. Radium's natural. If we were to mine it ourselves, we could harness the energy, put a tube around it, spin a turbine, and have our own free energy. This is why the fear propaganda, to make people fearful of free energy. And health benefits is what I think. So you have stuff like this, where we've been told our whole life, kryptonite, oh, it'll kill me. It's the only thing. I'm the man of steel, but kryptonite, oh. And Homer Simpson, all the, green toxic sludge everywhere. The toxic crusader who, fell into a vat of this toxic sludge and became this green monster. This is the type of stuff, the propaganda that we've been fed our whole life.
Do you feel like a good portion of these men in Congress know this already?
I know they do. I went there 4 years ago and sat down with the Senate legal staff and told them my hour-and-a-half long sad story, and Sam Bollinger, one of the lawyers, stood up and he says, Galen, if I understand you right, why you want us to have President Reagan snap his finger and make this thing come up straight. And I says, hey Sam, terrific, go ahead and do it. He didn't take that challenge. He says, no, I'll tell you what, Galen, industry likes it the way that it is. I said, Sam, you really know how to hurt a guy. And he says, well, if we change it, what are we going to do for an encore? Yeah, they're fully aware that this thing goes on as far up as the President of the United States. It's the way that industry wants it. The industry is its own problem then.
So the question is then, what is the industry? What is the real story here? Is this an industry of nuclear energy?
The industry has been ripping it off for years and years. In 1975, we knew that large nuclear reactors were dead, that large is not the way to go. The way to go is small, mass-produced nuclear reactors sitting right in the middle of town, one every 10 blocks, producing power. We haven't built a reactor right yet. It's time that we do it. Why haven't we? Because of a federal energy cartel. These guys...
Yep. They want to control, that's what he was about to say at the end. They want to control the energy and how much they charge for it and all that stuff.
In your estimation, then, how dangerous is a nuclear reactor plant?
A nuclear reactor plant is just a way to boil water that's the cleanest, neatest, most economical way to boil water that you've ever seen. And so, in my estimation, nuclear reactors ought to be insured under the same insurance policy as any other steam boiler plant, power generating plant. And to have special consideration under the Price-Anderson Act means that the insurance industry has already paid off the Congress so that they can have a ripoff, charging ever in higher and higher insurance premiums, total coverage much, much greater for a non-existent risk. What a racket.
This is the guy who worked in the industry for 20 years. He was big into it. You really got to look up his credentials, watch the video. It's an hour-and-a-half long, full of great information. But I think, I don't know if somebody was being serious in here or what, but they kind of laughed at the idea that nuclear power is steam. Look, that's what it is. A nuclear power plant functions much like a massive high-tech tea kettle. It splits uranium atoms to generate intense heat. The heat boils water into high-pressure steam, which then spins massive turbines connected to electricity generators. So literally, all that's happening at a nuclear power plant is natural radium and it might be, I'm oversimplifying it, but it's harmless radium inside some water that's bubbling and causing constant steam. And it's free and it's clean, and they make up all this propaganda that is so harmful because they don't want people to steal it. That's literally what the guy said. He said, don't let anyone know that you're stirring this stuff with your hand, because then they'll know that they can steal the technology. It's just like Tesla. Nikola Tesla, when he was creating his pyramids, if you want to call them that, antennas, whatever they were, he was powering whole cities with Wi-Fi energy. And he was getting funded by Roosevelt, I think it was. And once he realized, wait a minute, free energy, you're going to tear down all my power poles, he stopped funding them halfway through. His house got raided and he got killed. They don't want free technology. Get that out of your mind. Some people think, oh, if we could just, get together and figure out free technology. Eventually it'll come when they have the one world religion, the one world order, the new world order. Yeah, everything will be free, quote unquote free. You'll have to keep your social credit score up and all that. But they want you to have your Netflix and keep watching, keep shopping, keep watching your Netflix, stay entertained, don't pay attention. But yeah, a nuclear power plant is literally a tea kettle. So here's the guy, he was, licking this stuff for years. And Snopes, who debunks everything, Snopes are not conspiracy theorists at all. They try to debunk every single conspiracy theory out there. And they even said that the conclusion of this was a mixture. They said, what's true? The video was authentic and showed Galen Winsor, a figure known for his unconventional views on nuclear energy and radiation safety. Winsor believed the fear of nuclear radiation was exaggerated. What's false? However, Winsor was not a renowned physicist, because that's what this video clip said. Somebody said that on the clip. But rather he had a degree in chemistry and worked as a nuclear chemist. Yeah, for 20 plus years. What's undetermined, we were unable to determine the substance Winsor consumed in the video or confirm whether it was broadcast live on television. So whoever made this video go viral said he was a renowned physicist, said it was broadcast on live television, which I highly, highly doubt. And Snopes is saying, well, we can't tell what's in his hand. But it made the Geiger meter go off. He's not lying. This guy has no agenda. Why would he lie? What in the world would be his agenda? And so I asked, how old was Galen Winsor when he died? Galen Winsor died at the age of 82. This guy lived to be 82 years old, licking pure uranium off of his hand. Crazy, right? So this is just stuff to think about, Why would they want to make us believe that something beneficial is harmful? Well, there was a man named Jason Vale who was arrested twice, once in 2003 and again in 2019 for illegally selling apricot seeds online as a cure for cancer. Come on, man. If the FDA can arrest you for selling apricot seeds, then do you think there's an agenda or not? Jason Vale, a former world champion arm wrestler and cancer survivor, he healed himself with apricot seeds of cancer. And so he began to sell them online to help others and got arrested for it twice. The operation, he ran an online company called Christian Brothers Incorporated, using mass spam emails and marketing apricot seeds and Lytriol, a compound derivative from the seeds. The penalty, after ignoring an initial U.S. Food and Drug Administration, FDA, injunction to stop, a federal jury found him guilty of criminal contempt. He was sentenced to 5 years in federal prison for selling apricot seeds against the FDA's wishes. The FDA said, we warn you, your apricot seeds are not FDA approved. And he kept selling them, and he got federal prison for 5 years. Come on, man. Here was a guy who was healing people from cancer naturally, and he had people from all over the world come to his court hearing and say, When I was getting cancer treatments in the hospital, I was puking every day. My hair was falling out. But ever since I've been taking his treatments, it's been working. And we're standing here to stand on his side. He tried to get his natural remedy FDA approved, and they would never do it. The FDA would never approve his natural remedy, so he kept practicing on people till they finally took him to court. People from all over the world came to his court hearing and said, we stand with him. We're going to keep taking his procedures. And what the verdict was they said, okay, you can finish, you can keep continuing on the people that you're working on, but no more. What does that show you? This is corruption. There's a documentary about that guy's life, or about his court case, called A Beautiful Truth, and it's got an apple on it with the world. You can check that video out. I'm going to have to put a ton of links in here because I want you guys to check out this guy that we just looked at. But I want to bring this back to some scripture. Because first of all, why do we believe that China is parading around nukes? Literally parades. Dun, 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 dun. We got nukes. Dun, dun, dun. We have nukes. For all we know, that's an empty silo. It's a metal piñata. We are so duped by the media, by propaganda, that we don't even question. We're just like, oh, fear hits us as soon as we see that. Look at all that. They could blow up the world 3 times over. Look at that. Man, those things could be completely empty. We saw the military flipping inflatable tanks at the beginning of this thing. 2 Thessalonians 2:3 says, let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come except there come a falling away first, and that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition. We're being told to not let any man, don't let no man deceive us by any means. So anybody watching this is like, man, what has this got to do with the gospel? You're just hurting your ministry. You're not talking about Jesus. We are told to expose deception, to not be deceived by any means. And if deception is telling us, look, radium, a naturally occurring thing in God's green earth, is actually hurting you and you need to stay far away from it, that's deception. That's deception of our health. If we're being told, look, we got technology to blow the world up 4 times over, and we see that all the footage of it is fake and that there really isn't anything to fear, then that is deception. We have to come out of deception. That's why we're Candid Truth. We're coming out of the deception. We're waking up the world to the deception of Satan. Revelation 18:23 says, and the light of the candle shall shine no more at all in thee, and the voice of the bridegroom and of the bride shall be heard no more at all in thee, for thy merchants. Who are we talking about? Bill Gates and the Rockefellers and all these people. The merchants were the great men of the earth, and for by thy pharmakia, sorceries, were all nations deceived. This word sorceries is the Greek word pharmakia, which we get pharmaceuticals from. The pharmaceutical industry is literally deceiving the world into staying sick. And here, we got a pill for you. Oh, this pill has a side effect, but we got another pill for that side effect and another pill for that side effect. And you're going to be on the rest of your life. You're never going to be cured. We're going to make this temporary Band-Aid with a million different side effects, but we got pills and pills and pills for you to pay for that's continuing to kill your body. God has natural cures in this world. Nature is our medicine. God created herbs, plants, healthy diet. We as Americans have the standard American diet, the SAD diet, and that's why so many of us have cancer. Not to mention all the harmful things that are in the airwaves. I don't trust cell phones and 5G and Wi-Fi and all that stuff. But the natural radium that comes off of this glass, yeah, I got one. Not the prettiest thing, but I have a picture here too. These things glow under a black light. This is not medical advice. It's educational, entertainment, purpose only. Check it out. We'll check it with a Geiger meter. Check out this. They call it a candy dish. All right, we're at 3 just in natural. Check it out. Yes, copper is amazing. We have a copper thermos as well. Look at this thing. If I were to put a banana in here, it'd last a month. Dangerous levels. Danger. This is natural. Don't let the sound of this thing scare you. We've been trained to think that this is fear. A fearful thing. So 193, 197, 199. Wow, 200. 209. Okay, so about 209. But this is what the natural rock looks like. You can get these rocks as a collector, and they tell you, like, they act like, oh, be scared. This is what it is. It's a carnotite, and it came from Paradox Valley, Montrose County, Colorado, USA. This came from the ground in Colorado. You think we should be afraid of something that comes from the ground? I hope Mikey makes it through next week. See, this is what I'm talking about. We have been programmed to be afraid of a rock on God's green earth. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about right there. This device only goes up so high, so it won't show you what it really reads. When you let the water set in that jug overnight, it kind of has kind of a minty taste, a little bit of a lemony zing. Test everything. What did I drink? It was just water. It was water in a uranium glass. So I hope this is eye-opening to you guys. I'm not here trying to make you believe anything. I'm trying to make you think. I got questions. I don't trust the mainstream narrative. I don't trust the science textbooks that tell us that a Big Bang created the perfection of the universe and we crawled out of one-celled amoeba, crawled out onto land and became a human over billions of years. That's in the textbooks. Come on, guys. We are being indoctrinated in indoctrination camps that are enforced by law. You are forced by law. They will come to your house if your kid is not in school for 8 hours a day, being trained just like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and Daniel were taken into Babylon and were indoctrinated in the Babylonian school system. That's what we're in. And it's all to program us to make us fearful, unintelligent of truth, and to be unhealthy and just to be controlled. But if this video is eye-opening, please give it a thumbs up. Really helps get this video out into the algorithm. We will try to put out more videos as soon as we can. We're trying to keep, try to get 2 videos out a week would be awesome. If you're new to this channel, please click subscribe so you don't miss another video. I think people get unsubscribed, so check and make sure that you are not unsubscribed. And if you'd like to support this ministry, you can do so by going to CandidTruthOrg. We got Cashapp, Venmo, Zelle, PayPal. We even have Patreon, and we got some cool merchandise on our website. If you want to wear a cool shirt that says, "Be cool, use your brain, love is kind, the truth will set you free," we got many, many more on the website. And also, I would like you to check out my brother-in-law is working on making an AI movie, because a lot of people ask, as Christians, well, what can we watch? Everything's so evil. And so we want to actually produce movies. I want to produce a movie that tells the truth about the UFO deception, and it's going to be in a movie form with a storyline loosely based on my testimony. This is a movie that is going to be based on the story of Joseph Bates and his life. I never heard the story. I'm excited to see the story. This is the first 8 minutes of the movie, and check it out on Province Cinema on YouTube. Go to Province Cinema, and we are trying to expand our ministry. We feel kind of stuck right now. We feel like we've reached our max capacity as two people, just me and my wife stays really busy doing a lot of other stuff that we're working on, but trying to put out books, trying to put out literature. We already have a children's book that we're sold out of now. We got, out of 4,500 books, I finally shipped out the last 20 the other day. I have 20,000 UFO tracks that I usually have right here. I can show you. UFO tracks that tell the truth about the UFO agenda. We want to put out movies that are about people's lives, like Roger Morneau, the truth about the UFO thing, people's testimonies. We want to put things out there, but we don't have the funds for it. We would love to hire my brother-in-law full-time so that he can do this full-time for us, and so that we can help push out Providence Cinema, put out awesome media that is actually edifying, that is biblical, that is truth. Because what does the Bible say? Whatsoever things are pure, lovely, true, all these things. We want to create that stuff so that we have something to watch that is uplifting. We love you guys. We thank you guys. If you're giving to this ministry, we see you. We love you. We cannot do this without you. You make it possible. Thank you so much. And we'll see you next time on Candid Truth.